channel here. If you guys are followers of mine, you've probably seen me over on the Jurassic Park podcast YouTube channel, or maybe you've heard me on Grim Grinning Hosts talking about theme parks, or heard me on Never Offline talking about whatever. I've done a bunch of guest spots recently on different shows, specifically the Forcecast. I've been on that show a lot recently talking about Star Wars, which we're going to be talking about here today. I just got done seeing The Rise of Skywalker, and man, whew, that is a movie. So I'm not going to spoil anything just yet, so we're going to stay away from spoilers first, okay? And then we're going to get into the spoilers later on. I'll make sure to give you guys context as far as when that's going to happen, so that way you're not caught off guard. But I just wanted to get my feelings out there and to do something a little bit different here for this channel. Usually you just see videos of our excursions as a family or myself, to theme parks or different attractions, local stuff. But yeah, so this is something a little bit different. Gonna be kind of diving into The Rise of Skywalker, the latest and final installment in the Skywalker or the Star Wars saga, or whatever you want to say. But all right, so where can we start here? Because this movie is crazy. Remember here, no spoilers, nothing too deep. I'll just talk about some of the smaller points here. But the movie is, first off, it had a lot to tackle, right? This is the final in the Skywalker saga, so you have to wrap up everything. You have to wrap up 9 films, or the 8 before that, in this final movie here. And that's a big task to handle, and J.J. Abrams was tasked with doing that after taking over from Colin Trevorrow. And yeah, it had a lot in it. It had a lot in it. That's not a negative per se. It's not a great thing, but it's not a negative. It's kind of in between, where it had a lot to really appreciate and to love, and there's guaranteed so much in there that I didn't even take note of. There's so much happening from the moment the movie starts. It is just 1,000 miles an hour, as fast as any, the Millennium Falcon, whatever it is. This movie goes 12 parsecs, across the galaxy, and you have to like consider so much to wrap up this movie. So it's a lot to handle. So this is a movie that I feel like you need to see multiple times to actually like gather the information and to really appreciate all the finer details. It doesn't really take a lot of time to relax. If you're going so fast paced the entire movie, it doesn't really take a lot of time to sit back and just digest and just take it all in. There's a few specific moments that do, and I really do appreciate that. I don't want to say I was looking specifically for any kind of quieter moments, but I think with a Star Wars movie, you want it to replicate the past, and a lot of the original trilogy was very calm, right? So the prequels were definitely, they had their calmer moments, but it was mostly a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of new and interesting ideas. So this is kind of like a mix of that in a way. It's just got a lot of ideas, and specifically the last installment. There's a lot of new stuff introduced in this one, so a lot of questions are answered from the past. I feel like everything. I feel like most things are answered. Maybe not everything, but there's a lot of things are answered across the saga. Maybe there's some things answered, but as far as like this saga, so from episode 7 and 8, there's a lot of stuff answered here that you've been wondering and looking forward to knowing. So stay tuned for all of that. The music was wonderful. Really, really loved the music. I thought John Williams killed it here. There's a lot of really cool use of Rey's theme. What else? There was some new and interesting stuff that I noticed in there. And you guys know, I mean, via the marketing and stuff like that, the Emperor is a role or a figurehead in this film, and they utilized that a lot as well. You heard him in the marketing. So, if you have the Emperor in your movie, you have to utilize that theme, the Emperor's theme throughout this movie, and John Williams really handled that well. So I have not listened to the full score just yet, just whatever I heard in the movie. So I'm excited to dive into that. I actually saw it pop up like a day or two ago on my phone, and I'm like, oh, I really, really want to listen to that, but I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to look at the titles. I don't want to do anything. So I quickly like squinted and just downloaded it, hit the download button because I just in case I was, when I was on my way home, I would listen to it, but I didn't get the chance. I was listening to other stuff. But yeah, so there's not too much you can really say. It was fast paced. The music was great. The actors did a great job. I thought everybody brought their A games here. I really didn't feel like anybody was lacking or anything like that. So that was really cool to see everybody giving top notch performances. We've all been wondering about Leia and her inclusion in this movie. I thought that was great, just how they handled it. And this movie, it's a great like bow on the top of this franchise. It has to do so much, like I said, to tackle all 9 movies here in this saga, and just like tie it up and complete it. And I think it did a great job in that. So yeah, that was pretty good. But yeah, I think we should probably go ahead and introduce a little spoiler bumper here. So if you guys don't want to know anything about this movie, stay away, because this is spoiler territory, guys. So please go away. I'm going to put this image up here just for a minute here, so you guys know this is a spoiler bumper. When you see these eyes, spoilers are coming. Rise of Skywalker. So this is oh man. Again, where do I start? So talking about this thing on a surface level is hard, just because there's so many things that they try to wrap up and include in this movie. And let's talk about the overall plot of this, story-wise, is they're trying to find these devices to lead them to where the Emperor is, in order to defeat him. And that comes from both sides, the light and the dark. So Kylo and Rey are both trying to accomplish the same thing here. Now, all these details are going to be very thin, because I don't, like I said, I've seen this movie once, and I'm trying to gather as much as I can, process all this stuff, and it's a lot to process, so bear with me. But yeah, so they get in these wayfinders to try to get out to the Emperor and take him down, and either destroy the Sith and all the problems out there, or take control of it and rule the galaxy, in the case of Kylo. So yeah, I think there's some really, really interesting stuff here. There's I think there's great performances by Oscar Isaac. He takes this role of Poe and makes it more of an Indiana Jones character, who there was even like a moment in the movie that I was like, oh, that's straight up an Indiana Jones reference. I wish I knew the quote, but it was like something along the lines of like, snakes, I hate snakes, but for Poe. But yeah, and so this is really cool. So I don't know if you watch The Mandalorian at all. Do you guys watch The Mandalorian? Well, that if you don't, it's a show on Disney Plus. You should definitely watch it. I'm going to spoil a quick moment here that that ties into this movie. So this past week, the Mandalorian released their episode a little early. They released it on a Wednesday instead of a Friday. The Rise of Skywalker technically debuts on Friday. We got to see it on a Thursday, but so I'm thinking to myself, well, why are they going to release The Mandalorian on a Wednesday, right? Like, Why are you doing that? Is it a marketing tactic? Is it like, well, we don't really want to, trounce all over our movie. Not that like a TV show would, but or we don't want our TV show to get lost in the mix because the Rise of Skywalker is out. Everybody's going to be going to see that. Not as many people are going to be sitting on their couch watching The Mandalorian. So maybe I was thinking maybe there's something along those lines. I also thought, maybe it ties in. Maybe there's something that's revealed here. I thought that was a very lesser chance, but still a chance. Um, and man, there was a chance, and it paid off. It really did. So, obviously we're talking big spoilers here. So in The Mandalorian, man, I'm trying to even remember the moment specifically. How did this happen? Um, so I believe it was Grief Karga. He gets. Is this what happened? Oh yeah. Okay, so he got his arm scratched or something like that, I think, and he had all these big lacerations on him, and Baby Yoda comes up here, and goes over his arm like this and just heals him with the Force, and I'm watching the show, I'm like, oh my God, that's a really cool new trait revealed. As far as I've known, I've never heard of that Force ability. I pride myself on knowing a lot, as much as I can about Star Wars, and that's never something that I've heard mentioned or anything like that. So I was like, wow, that's really cool that they introduced this. And then I finished the episode. I'm like, well, I didn't really see anything that's worthy of tying into this franchise or into the movie franchise. So I just kind of let it go, and I kind of put it off to the side, and I said, you know what, this is probably a marketing tactic. It's to let the Mandalorian have its day, and then let the Rise of Skywalker have its day. But man, it tied in. It tied in because specifically a moment in this movie where there was a creature and it had, it was all slashed up, and then I saw those slashes and I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. This is going to tie in to The Mandalorian. My mind was blown. For years, we've been talking about TV shows and movies and how they all have the same shared universe. They tie into one another, with different properties here and there. Specifically, Marvel. They created Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Agent Carter, and then of course the Defenders universe on Netflix. And there's always this promise that things are tying together, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did it for a good while. They did kind of tie in. Never really paid off on the film side, but the films paid off to the TV show. But then they kind of definitely strayed apart, and the Netflix stuff never really touched on things. And then this show comes along, and it caught us off guard because I didn't expect it to truly mean something in regards to this movie. And it did. And I mean, sure, you could not see The Mandalorian, and this realization in the film would be really awesome. But the fact that you have that little backstory in The Mandalorian is incredible. So it pays off, and it pays off big. I'm going to skip ahead even to the end of this movie because, this really ties into the entirety of this entire saga, which is just crazy to me. So at the end of this movie, Rey does a bunch of stuff, saves the day. Oh, well, I mean, I kind of want to skip over things, but I don't because I'm talking about this. But guys, little detail: Ben switches sides. No big deal. He changes. He lets go of the cowl and the the all the crazy stuff. He's done. He's done with the dark side. He switches sides. So there's a whole lot of stuff that happened before that, but man, he switch sides. And Rey at the after defeating the Emperor, she dies. She dies. And after saving Ben once already through the healing force, she healed him at one point because she actually stabbed him, and that was it. She was angry, and she just impaled Kylo at that point. But then came back from that and healed him. And later on, it paid off for her because he healed her. And this is all so crazy. And this is something that um, I was listening to the Forcecast, and Daniel on there pointed out this insane thing that, like, when you think back on it, I hadn't even had time to process this, and I'm listening to their show, and I'm like, oh my God, like, because they saw it a few days early. I'm like, wow, they killed it with this analysis here that Kylo talking to Vader's helmet in The Force Awakens saying, I will finish what you started. That whole thing that just kind of, was in the trailers, I feel like, and then it was like a major piece from that movie. Kylo finishing what his grandfather started. We've always assumed it to be, the destruction of the galaxy and just ruling over the galaxy and stuff like that. But really what it comes down to is, and unknowingly, he finished what Vader started by using the Force to save what he loved. Now, that was the entire downfall of Anakin in the first place, was he was afraid to lose something that he loved at Padme. He was afraid. So he did the unthinkable and killed a bunch of people and left to the dark side, and then became so riddled with anxiety and fear and doubt and to the point where he did himself in. But his entire goal was to save what he loved through the use of the Force, and it paid off here, and that paid off spectacularly. I just can't believe it, and it didn't dawn on me when I watched the movie. I just thought, wow, this is incredible. The show, The Mandalorian, paid off here. It paid off throughout the movie with Rey saving Kylo early on, and then Kylo saved Rey, and then I just couldn't believe, throughout the entire movie, it's just about they've mastered this. They mastered it. The two of these. And another thing, Rey being a Palpatine. Wait, what? It's like I can't even talk about this movie without oh my God, there's a reveal here. There's a reveal there. There's a reveal here. There's just reveals everywhere. And it's like I want to focus on one thing, but there's another 10 reveals that you need to talk about before discussing this other thing. So, my God, these two come together and just are the ultimate, outside of the Emperor, the ultimate balance, or the ultimate powers in the Force, and they've mastered the ability to save life and to heal and to, that's crazy. That's so crazy. And that's not anywhere I really expected this movie to go at all, with the healing abilities. And I didn't expect it to be revealed on The Mandalorian via Baby Yoda. Amazing. And it paid off here. And it's the true story of the saga, is saving what you love. And they did it, the two of them together. And it kind of, man, this goes back to The Last Jedi with Rose. And it's not about defeating what you hate. It's about saving what you love. I probably butchered that quote, but that's what it's about. And she was telling us what this is about. Literally, she was telling us what this was about in that movie, at the end of the movie. And that's what this entire series is about. And, Anakin never got the chance to do it. But when given a second chance, who knows what if he would have been capable of. Ben got his second chance here multiple times in this movie. Literally got second chances. They repeated sequences from The Force Awakens, essentially, and just repeated those moments, but give you the outcome that you almost hoped for. In The Force Awakens, you get the incredible scene with with Han Solo and Ben Kylo on the bridge, and Kylo's like, I know what I have to do, but I don't think I have the strength to do it. And Han Solo in that moment helps him and takes him in, and is like, I'll help you. I'll do whatever you need to do. Just come back with us. And you, for that slight moment in The Force Awakens, you think Kylo's going to turn right here. This is it. This is the story. This is, no preconceived notions at that point. You just have no idea what's happening. This is what's going to happen, is you think Kylo's going to turn to the light, and they're going to have to fight something else, Snoke in the First Order. But no, he does the predictable and kills his own father, and he needed that to push him more into the dark side. But in this movie, we get Han Solo again. What? Han Solo's back in a quick memory ghost-like cameo, not a Force ghost, but a memory, a shadow of a reflection of him. And they get to relive that moment, that exact moment, and it happens the way you wanted it to, in the first movie. Nobody wanted Han Solo to die in that moment, but this time we get that moment. We get the moment that we wanted, and it's so fulfilling, to be honest. And then we get to see the moment that we wanted in The Last Jedi with on Snoke's ship, the two of them, Rey and Kylo, fighting back to back after Kylo killed Snoke. You see them fighting together, and you're like, this is it. This is the moment. They're going to join forces, because Rey's not going to go dark. Kylo's going to turn to the light. And Rey tries, she pleads, but it didn't work out for her. And Kylo, stayed with the dark side. The lightsaber exploded, blah, blah, blah. And the same thing happens here. It's just like we get this moment where they're fighting against each other, and Rey stabs him and then just like realizes what she did, and it's just like so out of her mind at that point. She's lost in the middle of this movie, or latter portion of this movie. And she heals him, but she's like, I don't know what I just did. I kind of regret this whole thing. I'm going to go disappear. And she goes back to Ahch-To, which is crazy. But I think that moment did the same thing it did for Greef Karga in The Mandalorian, where it made him change his heart. He had a whole plan in The Mandalorian to backstab the Mandalorian, but after the Baby Yoda gave him, life again, he had a change of heart. And the same thing happened here, with a little bit more help and stuff down the line as well. But it changed him, and it's crazy. Like, this movie is crazy. But he keeps getting these second chances. So he got a second chance. He did the right thing, and then in the end, he helped to save Rey. And the Reylos out there are, I don't know, are they loving this movie? I haven't really checked out the hashtag Reylo business out there, but they went for it. They satisfied all the Reylos out there, I would assume, and gave them everything they wanted in that moment, or in that specific moment. It was one of those moments where I thought, they're kind of embracing each other. They're looking at each other like, we did it. We did this whole thing. We saved everything. We did this together. This is all that we needed to do from the beginning. And I'm looking at them, like looking at themselves like so lovingly. I never thought they would go there. I really didn't think they would go there, but they went there, and they did the kiss, and it just, yeah, that was rough. I enjoyed it. I thought it was great, but like, I couldn't believe they went there. I just couldn't believe it. Like, usually with stuff like that, they'll just like leave you on the edge of your seat and then not do it, but they did it. I couldn't believe it. So They satisfied a lot of fans out there, I think, and probably made a ton of fans angry, very, very angry. Um, but yeah, so what else do we have here in this movie? There's, oh man. All right, so some things I'm maybe I can't really say disappointed. I'm sort of, I don't know, disappointed that a few things didn't come to fruition. Like we never got a Force Ghost of Anakin. That's a bummer. That's a bummer for me because they put him into the Return of the Jedi, and I love that. I love that that cohesiveness across those two series. The prequels and the originals, and then I just expected him to show up as a Force Ghost somewhere. We got Yoda in the Last Jedi. I expected Anakin somewhere in this trilogy. There were so many moments, and even in Rogue One, there was just a little moment where it could have happened, but it didn't happen. So it didn't happen in this movie either, unfortunately. And another thing, as far as cameos are concerned, I was expecting a lot more in terms of, you know, Red 5, Red 4, Red 2, like all gold member, gold leader, whatever, Alton member. I don't know. All these different tag, ship tags like that you call out call signs. I expected, you see that massive allotment of ships that just flew into the battle with the Falcon at the front. You see that in the trailer, and I expected like a lot of people we know to read their call signs. Harrison Dula. We see the Ghost. I expected that. I don't know. I don't even know who. Like Hondo Anaka. Literally anybody out there in the galaxy that's still alive. I expected to see like their call signs, hear them talk. We didn't really get that. Like other Mandalorians, like even the Mandalorian himself. Like, we do see. I believe there is a ship out there that looks like the Razor Crest. I don't know if it specifically is the Razor Crest. And we saw the Ghost, like I said, and I think there's a few other things I forget. It's been a while since I've referenced that, but we didn't get that, but we did get Wedge. Dennis Lawson was in this, and that was crazy. I saw Wedge, I was like, oh, Wedge, and I had the chance to read Rebels Reborn, I think was the title. And that movie or book really surrounds like that character and a lot of other characters as well, coming back into the fold for the Resistance, but then kind of going different ways. So it was nice to see him return there. And Snap, we lost Snap in this one. That was a bummer. I was like actually really bummed about that because. And I guessed it, to be honest. We saw the trailers, and in the trailers, you see Poe really, really emotional in the cockpit of an X-wing, screaming like as he's flying. He's like, "No!" And I'm like, there's only in my mind in that moment watching the trailer, there's only one person that can be, and I'm thinking, Snap. I'm not thinking Poe because Poe's not really flying or anything like that. So I'm thinking Poe, or I'm thinking Snap. So it happened, and it was really upsetting, especially after reading Rebels Reborn or Rebellion. What is the name of that book? I don't know. And then also reading the Aftermath series. He is a major part of that, and in spoilers, I won't spoil the book for you, but there's a lot of connections there. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that all went down, and yeah, so I'm bummed that there wasn't more, like we didn't get to see other big characters that we know of throughout the galaxy, but we did hear a lot of others, which was really, really incredible. I was expecting, like I said, a lot of Force Ghost cameos and stuff like that. I expected Anakin to be a part of this. We got that moment at the end with Rey, calling to arms to all the Force ghosts out there to help her defeat the Emperor. And they came to battle. And we hear Obi-Wan, we hear Qui-Gon, we hear what's his name? Kanan Jarrus. I think Ezra's in there somewhere, if I remember correctly. We get Ahsoka, my favorite character in all of Star Wars. We get Ahsoka Tano. And I'm listening. I'm like, all right, where is she? Where is she? Where is she? And it is insane. Like, there is voices all over the place. And it's very tough to kind of differentiate in that moment when you don't have the visual. Sorry, it's late. And I just came back from the movie. So it's hard to differentiate what's going on. And you hear specific voices that you know and you remember. But, like, it's very hard to pinpoint every one of them. And honestly, I feel like I heard Darth Maul in there. Sam Witwer. Correct me if I'm wrong. I might have, but like I said, it was all going so fast. Name. It's like, they were giving their lines. And I'm like, who are all these people? And I hear Ahsoka. I saw it in a Dolby cinema, so I don't know if their sound's better or whatever, but, like, Ahsoka's all the way in the back corner. Oh, man. It was so good. And, yeah, there was a lot of voices in that moment, and Yoda and Luke. It's just like, I feel like every Jedi that was out there probably was in that sequence. But yeah, I kind of expected, like, in that moment to see, like, a giant lineup, Avengers style, like, the Portals moment from Avengers where just all these, spoilers, they all join the battle. I kind of expected that moment with Force Ghosts, but instead we just hear them, and I guess they imbue their power onto Rey. Yeah, I guess that's kind of what happened there, but I don't know. But yeah, it was still very, very cool to hear those voices. Man, what I thought Zori Bliss and Babu Frick were great. They were great additions. We went back to Octo, and which I actually don't think it was Skellig Michael. If I'm, like, looking at that honestly, I went to Skellig Michael earlier this year, and I think there's definitely some shots maybe filmed there from, like, a helicopter or something like that. But as far as the stuff that was them, like, because at that point we get Force Ghost Luke, so he was there. But Force Ghost Luke and what did I just say? Force Ghost Luke and Rey, and I think that was maybe just somewhere in, like, Ireland or Scotland or somewhere that, like, represented that island, because that's where she went. She went back to there to lose herself, like Luke did. Because of fear. But I think it was still nice to see that island. We saw the Porgs, which is great. I'm so happy there were Porgs here. I'm a little bummed they weren't part of, like, the team. What happened? There were some nests going on in the Falcon. And I think those nests are still in it, in the Millennium Falcon ride down in Galaxy's Edge. But yeah, man, what else? Is there anything else? I feel like there's so much. We've got a traitor out there, or not traitor. I guess a traitor for the First Order. The spy, General Hux. So I'm like, you hear about the spy, and I'm like, oh wow, we got, like, a General Callus situation here from Star Wars Rebels. And I'm thinking, like, this is a guy that's, like, is he going to be gung-ho on the Resistance and all that stuff? And maybe it was Resistance Reborn. That's the name of the book. There's too many R's. Rebels, Rebellion, Resistance. I think it's Resistance Reborn. I'm talking, like, off cuff here. I have no idea what's happening. No script whatsoever. What was I talking about? Callus, General Callus, from Rebels. Is he a general? Now I'm questioning everything. But I thought it was going to be one of those situations with Hux, but thinking back on the other movies, he is just so villainous. He's the guy who called the cherished fleet. Blah 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 blah, and then the whole Starkiller base just exploded and sent like 5 different planets exploding. So um, I didn't see him as a spy per se, and it was revealed that he was, but we get it's like a subtle spy. He's just like I don't want you guys to win. I don't care if you guys win or not. I just want Kylo to lose. And that was an interesting way of looking at the spy. We've gotten this whole like spy kind of storyline thread throughout Rebels and stuff like that with Callus, with Fulcrum. You get the Fulcrum agents out there. Even Rogue One, it's like there's a lot of like spy intrigue in that movie as well. But this one is just like he's a casual spy. He's just like I'm gonna feed you some information, but only because I want this one guy to lose real bad, because I really don't like him because he became the supreme leader instead of me. So I thought that was interesting. But oh wow, this honestly, like talking about this, it really needed to be like 2 movies. It kind of like, or not even 2 movies, but like it needed to be longer. I was saying before this movie was released that like Endgame came out and it broke new ground. Not broke new ground. What am I talking about? It just like it at least allowed like all the geeks out there, myself included, speaking as a whole, to embrace the 3-hour mark and just like let that happen for amazing movies and storytelling. Like Endgame was just incredible. I thought it was incredible. Honestly, I'll still say it was probably a better movie-going experience seeing Endgame, and I don't know why, because like I've only had those characters for 10 years, and these characters, well, the new characters are still even newer than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but the old characters, everything else, it just I don't know. Endgame just impacted me a lot more. So that movie going experience was a lot more intense. But 3 hours. That movie's like I think over 3 hours, and it felt long. But I think the Rise of Skywalker needed to be a little bit longer. I think it was like 220 something, which is long, but I think it needed to be a bit longer. You're talking about the conclusion of the Skywalker saga. I think you needed to be a little bit longer and give it a little bit more time to pace itself, to relax. A lot of these story beats, like specifically the whole Wayfinder thing, I don't want to say it goes nowhere, but the answer is solved within the first 2 minutes of the movie. Kylo finds his Wayfinder, and that's the only one we ever needed. We didn't need this other one that they went on this insane, the entire first 40, 50 minutes of this hour, however long, of this movie, maybe even longer, to be honest, was all about finding this other Wayfinder device that wasn't necessary at all. Like it wasn't needed. The only thing that it got out of it was, well, I guess you got a lot out of it. You found Lando. You found Lando out there because of it. You figured out. Well, Rey essentially killed Kylo, and then killed him, but and changed the trajectory of his outcome. So yes, it was kind of necessary, and I know a lot of people think about that with Canto Bight. It's like Canto Bight was boring. It was useless. It didn't matter at all. But it did actually matter in that movie. It really did matter because they ended up finding the code breaker, and then the code breaker ended up being a part of the reason why the First Order tracked those ships that were going down to Crate, essentially killing off their fleet. So that mattered. That really did matter. One thing led to the next that led to them killing off the fleet, which pinned them down on Crate with very few numbers, and essentially led them to this movie where they have like almost nobody to help them. So Crate really mattered a lot. And I think, when I get to look at this movie again, maybe I'll see a lot more that matters about this whole Wayfinder storyline. But on the surface right now, I'm like, well, they could have maybe trimmed out a lot of that to give you more room to breathe with other moments. But that's not to say I enjoyed the entire, like, all those moments. I really enjoyed all those moments. So, um, yeah, but whew, man, I think I think I did as much as I possibly could. We end this thing here back on the Skywalker Ranch, uh, Skywalker Ranch, uh, down on Tatooine, and Ray buries the past. Essentially, it's Leia's gone. Leia used her force abilities to influence Kylo and got him back on track as well, and she died in the process and disappeared with the force at the same time as Kylo, and and she had a lightsaber too, like, and there was a flashback of Luke and Leia training, like, and it looked incredible, like, that's nuts. But she had a lightsaber, and they reforged Luke's lightsaber, and Rey buried them in the sands of Tatooine, and it's poignant. It's kind of like, we have no bodies of Luke or Leia. They became one with the Force, and this is all we have left are these two lightsabers. So let's bury them. Let's put them back, and it was poignant, I think, to put them down. Where we first met the Skywalkers, back in 1977. So that's pretty awesome. And she embraces the name of Skywalker, which is really cool. Even though she's not a Skywalker, she knows she's a Palpatine, the granddaughter, not daughter or anything like that. But it's nice to see her embrace the name and continue the name. So the Skywalker saga isn't over yet. I mean, the lineage is definitely done, which is crazy. Like, that's it. Because Kylo died. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Kylo died saving Rey. Like, man. I feel like I'm, like, remembering all these things as I'm talking. But he died saving her and imbuing his life force upon her so she could live, saving what he loved. Like, oh, man. This is a great story. This is so much fun. Ah, man. So yeah, she's a Skywalker now, and that's cool. It's cool. And I don't think, it doesn't really, it undid a lot of The Last Jedi in a certain sense, but it also really did factor on a lot of that as well. So I love The Last Jedi and everything it did for this. I was initially, like, kind of like, my heart hurt after seeing that movie because it destroyed everything I loved on purpose, and that was the point. That was the point of that movie. So it hurt, and it took me I think I didn't get to see it for another, like, a week or two, and it like hurt me for that amount of time. I was like, oh man, I need to see this movie again and like kind of come to terms with it because I wasn't expecting this, and then I did, and it's all good now. So I love that movie, and I love how this all ties together and how it all goes back to, the prequels and the originals, and man, did that do a killer job. So I really love that. And I also got this. So this tin. It looks like a garbage can from here, but it's a huge popcorn bucket. And oh yeah, it's great. It was only like $11, but hey, that's good. I like it. It's pretty cool. It's got Rey on there. You got Zori Bliss. You got Poe, Chewie, Finn. That's cool. Got it at AMC. So there you go. But and it's like kind of, what do you call that? Beveled? I don't know. Very cool. Love that. But yeah, I don't know. Should we end it there? That's 45 minutes. I didn't expect to go that long. Oh my gosh. So I hope you enjoyed this little something different, I think. Maybe we'll do this more often. I don't know. I feel like I want to. So I always talk about Jurassic. So if you guys are watching this still and you want to follow me elsewhere, go to my Jurassic Park podcast YouTube channel. You can follow me over there for a lot of Jurassic Park content. Here, I don't know what we're gonna do. I have no idea. This is the first one of these things that I'm doing, so we'll find out. But I do a lot of live streams over on my other channels, so go check that out. I'll make sure to include it at the end, in the end screen here. But yeah, it's been fun. Go follow me at Brad Jost on Twitter, the Jurassic Park podcast on all podcasting platforms, Never Offline on all podcasting platforms, Grim Grinning Host on all podcasting platforms. I don't want to wait too many things. So, thank you guys so much for watching along, and I hope you guys enjoyed the Rise of Skywalker. I can't wait